Absolutely. That's on fleek. That's where that came from.
Wow.
Brock Purdy was not.
No, he was not
on fleek over the weekend. We talked earlier about the rope, if you will, that Brock Purdy gets. And I agree with you 100%, Jason, to what you said. He absolutely deserves all the rope.
Yeah. He's the starting quarterback. He's not in trouble.
He's the second most successful quarterback in the NFL since he's been in the NFL. Like, it's Patrick Mahomes, who may end up going down as the greatest ever if he plays long enough and avoids major injury. And then it's Brock Purdy. You know, and I'm willing to, honestly, based on what we were talking about before, I'm willing to stop talking about how much of a great story he is because he got picked last if everybody else is willing to start giving him the slack of a top 10 pick, which they won't do. But again, if Brock Purdy had been picked where Trey Lance was, or hell, been picked where Josh Allen or Josh Rosen was picked, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
We'd be fitting him for Hall of Fame jackets right now already because of the way he started. So it's a little silly to me. When I understand he hasn't looked that great, but, and Zebra said something earlier, and I'll admit I've thought about this before. Like we mentioned this last week, Jason. Brock has worked out in the offseason. He's really filling out that, speaking of, he's really filling that jersey out something. And I somebody else brought it up. It was the first thing I thought of. You know, I remember when De'Aaron Fox bulked up a few years back, and it took him about a third of the year to go, oh, I can't be this muscular. I'm losing some quickness.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case with, but that's really the only thing I'm worried about. I'm not worried that he spent the offseason and lost his marbles of talent like in Peter Pan. Dude's going to be fine, but I get it. It's football. People worry.
Yeah. Look, it's the 3 series that he played. We saw he wasn't very good at all. I think there are pretty good reasons for it. I would be more concerned, and some people have said he hasn't been dynamite in camp. Like, that would be the part where I go, okay, the regulars are out there for the most part, right? They still don't have Ayuk. They still don't have Trent Williams, but he's passing to Kittle. He's passing to Debo. Some of the starting linemen are out there for practices and scrimmages in that sense. So I'm not as worried about the performance yesterday against the Saints.
Sure.
But the other part would concern me more if they're concerned, and sure doesn't look like the Niners are concerned at all.
No.
I don't think Kyle Shanahan's even remotely worried. His superpower to me still is his decision-making. So, if he's getting better protection and can read a defense quickly, and McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle and those guys are out there, he's going to be good.
That's the other thing. You're missing 3 offensive linemen. You're missing Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey.
Well, it's kind of a big deal.
But I guess maybe I'm subconsciously avoiding saying that because then I want people to be like, see, 20 is a system quarterback. Because
you can't penalize him for what he has.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And
until they're not there. Like, if there's a time where he's the quarterback and those guys are gone, and he's middle of the pack, then you make that decision.
You're missing. Screw it. It's not worth talking about. But I
mean, if the season started tomorrow, are you worried about Brock Purdy? No. Yeah, me neither.
I'm not. I'm really not.
Not until you need to be. And
that's
I
right.
would. I don't know how many games would have to happen before I would go, uh-oh, maybe there is something here. I'm not there.
I think it's, I don't know. I think it's a combination. I don't think it's just games, obviously. But I think it's games and also the way he looks in those games too, specifically. Like, look, if he plays 3 games and throws 4 picks a game, there's a problem.
Right.
If he plays 7 games and he's below average, but they're sitting at like 2 and 5, in both those cases, there's an issue. But when you look at the schedule, they open at home versus the Jets. That's going to be that's a Monday Night Football game. Let's go Aaron Rodgers all over again. That's going to be a big flipping deal. They go at Minnesota, at Rams, home New England, home Arizona, at Seattle before Kansas City October 20th. Now, look, this won't happen. Excuse me, but let me see here. They will almost certainly be favored in all 6 of those games. Again, depending on what they do in the leading up, but
Yeah.
home against the Jets, they're favored.
Mhm.
In Minnesota, no Kirk Cousins, no JJ McCarthy, they're favored. Home New England, home Arizona. The only one that gives me pause at all is at Seattle.
Right now, I would say they would be.
I would say they would be too. In fact, honestly, I'm looking at home Kansas City, and I got a really hard time if that was the opening game.
Mhm.
If they're at home versus Kansas City, I think the Niners be favored by like 1, but they say home field advantage, field goal, all that stuff. I don't know, Jason. And again, the way the season goes will dictate it, but just kind of looking at the schedule, home Dallas, at Tampa Bay. Just find me a game you think they would be underdogs in. Home Seattle, at Green Bay, at Buffalo. I mean, that's a pretty interesting triple hitter there. Home Seattle, at Green Bay, at Buffalo in November, December. Home Chicago, home Rams, at Miami, home Detroit, at Arizona. There's some marquee.
The Rams games, maybe. At the Rams, maybe. Detroit, depending. I mean, again.
Yeah, Detroit's coming in here, though.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Detroit's coming in here. Kansas City's coming in here. Dallas is coming in here. They've got Miami, Buffalo, and Green Bay on the road.
Yeah.
It's an interesting schedule for them this year, honestly. I mean, you look at it and there's some really KC, Seattle twice, Green Bay, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. That's some pretty marquee matchups, but then the rest of the schedule is kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. If they win a lot more than they lose, Jason, they're going to win the NFC West. That's my prediction. When we come back, 3 for Madness. Caitlin Clark on fire, and also are going to be a choice